Hi guys, in this video I'm going to quickly go through where we are currently in our development and review what you have so far done. And also I set a priority list, okay? So let's go through all the issues first and where we are. So let me open this in incognito. I'll open a design very quickly. Okay, so let's start with the cropping feature. Okay, so we can add an image. Cropping feature is looking okay at the moment. Mashallah, I like this faded look. That looks good. And then you can crop here. That's great. Okay, but one thing I must say is that once the image is cropped and we go back to the cropping, the cropping margin shouldn't start at the center if it's already been cropped once. The center, it should only start from the center when it's being cropped for the first time. So for the first time it's being cropped, that means no crop has been applied, then it can start in the center. If it's not been cropped, then it should start in the default position. So for example, if I crop the image in this moon area and I go back to the crop, unfortunately there's a bug there, it got stuck. Let me try again. Okay, so see here, I crop it at the tree area. Okay, there we go, another problem. Okay, so say you can see it's being cropped in the tree. Now if I go back to crop mode, it should stay inside, the margin should stay within the current position. It shouldn't move to the center again. It should stay in the actual margin, right? So that's my first issue, okay? And on top of that, I don't know if you can notice, but when you go into crop mode, the image moves and the crop margin moves as well. So the tree is right here now. Look at my mouse, and now the tree has moved down here. Okay, so it shouldn't move or be dislodged. So I guess there needs to be a little bit of work on this, including like the responsiveness and stuff like that. But don't worry about the responsiveness of this dark overlay. We can come back to that in the future. I think I might even remove it. But that's my comment so far. Going in the right direction, and also I think the speed of this is getting better now. Before it was much slower to get to crop mode. So hopefully, we can try to get this as efficient as possible in the near future, right? And of course, you can see there's a few bugs. Okay, so great. This no image shouldn't be there when there's an image on top, okay? Only the X sign should be there, but no image should not be there when there's an image inside. When you remove the image, this should be there, and it would be nice if we can somehow give a bit more room to this text, either put the letter 2 in the next line or something like that, because right now it's too tight. Okay, so that's my comment for the cropping, and I just commented on the background look of this. Now one thing I want you to note is when you add a background image, for example, right now for some reason the images are not coming. Okay, so let me add a background image. Notice how we have the image transparency and you have the color inside. Okay, this is working actually perfectly fine. This is exactly how it should be. But unfortunately, this has not been done correctly in the same way. You should be doing the same thing for shapes, okay? So let's go through my design in shapes. It's very simple how shapes work. When you add a shape, you have these three options, okay? Fill, adjust, and drop shadow. Okay, so in fill, you can add the shape color, which is the default color, and then you have the shape transparency. Okay, the shape transparency should be changing only the fill color of the shape, this blue part. Okay, so the transparency should affect that, and then the border color will be as you can see here, and then you have the border thickness. Okay, so these are the ones that come. As you notice, you don't have right now the image has not been added, therefore there's no image transparency. Now the problem with R1 is that when we add a shape, first thing is that notice how here we have the image transparency, and the image transparency is actually affecting the shape transparency, right? So as you can see here, so when I reduce the image transparency, the shape transparency is going down. So actually it should be the opposite. So when you add a color to the shape, this should be in full by default. It should be at 100%, and as you reduce it, this color becomes transparent. So in the same way, when I add a border, okay, let's add a border in say black color, and let's try to make it thick. Okay, so when I add a border, now we've added a border. if I reduce the transparency of the red, the shape color, the shape fill color, then actually only the border will be there, and this will be transparent in the middle, right? Because the border thickness is still there, and then we have the shape transparency, which should be reduced, right? Now, and then we have these corners things, which is working perfectly fine. One thing I would like to ask is that by default, all the borders should be applied not beyond the bounding box. It should be applied on the inside, okay? So in many settings in software, as you see that, you know, in which position do you want to have the stroke. In our case, we want the stroke to be on the inside. For example, let me just find an example, quick example. I'll open a project. Say in Photoshop, if I add a shape, here's the stroke. I add a nice big stroke, okay? Now notice this is going on the inside, not the outside. There's different modes. There's a line from the inside, there's a line from the center. I think what you have right now is a line from center and a line from outside. So for right now, for us, we'll just keep it from a line from the inside, okay? And the cap should be square, okay? All the caps should be square. So by default, that's by default. And square is the only one, this rectangle is the only one that has corner radius that can make the radius rounded, okay? Now when you add the image, what's supposed to happen? You add the image inside, it goes inside, okay? And as you can see, that is a problem right now. There's a bug there. Now the transparency should only be affecting the image. So as you're reducing the image transparency, then the shape and the border should still be there at full transparency, and only the image will start to become transparent, showing a little bit of the red from the back. Just like I showed you in background, when you reduce the image transparency, you can start to see the red in the background. Same thing for the shape, okay? So please do that for shape. Also, please add the X button here to remove the image if the user wants to remove it. That is also in my design, as you can see. First, there's no shape added. Next screen, user adds the shape, image transparency appears, and then there's an X button, and then you know, we can see the selection area. Now let's go into the selection area, cropping the shape. Okay, so let me add another shape just to make it a bit more clearer. Okay, so let's go shape, let's get a circle this time, and I'm going to add an image inside. Now there's a problem. Number one is that when you add an image inside the shape, there's stretching happening. So we want to go back to the old system that we had before. When we first started clipping, you guys fixed it in a way that there was never any stretching inside the clipping image. It always in proportion, occupying the maximum amount of space, okay? The minimum amount of space, actually, sorry. So now we've got the image inside the shape. Let's reposition it. Now this is again the problem that we have with crop as well. The whole thing is moving. So by default, it shouldn't, for clipping, it shouldn't start from the center. It should just start from the location it was already clipping this current image. So if it was clipping in, if the image was being clipped here, then when you go to reposition, it should start there as well. Okay, not from the center. And we should make sure that the image never moves. Responsiveness, I think, looks fine at the moment for now. I think, let me try. Yeah, I mean, this issue with the dark, like I said before, we'll fix that in the future. But that's it at the moment, guys. We just need to work on these things, and please make sure that we fix this properly. Group is not necessary here, this group button. Group is only there when we select more than one object, okay? And I also did notice that when you do group an object, now I've selected more than one object, I'm going to group these together. Now when we group these together and you select a group, these options should not be there for the shape and all of these things. Instead, they should be how we used to have it in our classic, you know, in before, when we used to have our old software, the current system. Current system, when you take any grouped objects together, what happens is, let's take a few objects, we'll group it. Okay, what happens is you just have all the object colors, you have the transparency for the whole group, and you have the shadow. That's all we need for groups. Okay, we just need all the objects colors separately. We don't need these options that you currently have, which is let me go there. currently have, which is, you still have the add image inside this frame. You have other colors. You can't edit the color of the text. You can't edit the color of the shape, this shape here. So it's all a bit jumbled up. So please fix that. Go back to the old group system so that we can have object colors of any object inside here. And yeah, that's it. So there'll be the shape object, meaning the shape color of this, and then there'll be the text and the rectangle, etc. Okay, that is all, I guess, guys. One more thing I want to make a note is your menus. For some reason, I don't know why, but you guys changed these buttons. Look at the buttons are moving when you click them. So the buttons are moving when you click them. You can see everything moving slightly. And on top of that, you changed the font of the buttons. Before, I prefer the font how we had it before. It was slightly more bold. We had the bold buttons here, bold here. And when you click any of the buttons are not moving. See, they stay in the same place. This one is all moving. So that is a problem. I'd rather not have it like that. Okay. So yeah, and that is it for now. Thank you very much, and I'll catch up with you guys soon.